Donald Trump is proposing massive tax reform. This is from Politico here. Trump to seize populist mantle for pitching messy tax overhaul. The administration is building its message around unrigging the economy while lawmakers battle over corporate tax provisions and middle-class rates. So, notice something there, the way that they're framing it. So they're framing this as a populist message. That's how this is being described. That's how the administration would pitch it, and that's also how Politico is dutifully reporting it here. And they're going to use the framing of, we are, quote, unrigging the economy with our tax proposal. And these goddamn Democrats are going to stand in the way of us unrigging the economy. So to steal from my good friend Mystical, move, bitch, get out the way. That's what they're going to say to the Democrats, and they're going to frame it as, oh my God, we're the ones who are looking out for the little guy. We're looking out for the average Joe here. So if you want to get mad at anybody, get mad at the Democrats, because we have a populist tax plan and we are unrigging the economy. Well, that's interesting. So let's go ahead and take a look at the reality of the proposals. This is done by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy. The analysis was done this month, August 2017. And this is specifically for Missouri, but this holds true on a state-by-state basis. Numbers are very similar no matter where you go. But if you make more than $1 million under Trump's tax proposal, you get a tax cut of $190,560 per year. If you make more than $1 million, you get a tax cut of $190,560 per year. Wow. That's a giant tax cut for the rich now, isn't it? If you make $200,000 to $1 million, so still pretty wealthy, you get a tax cut of $8,850. If you make $100,000 to $200,000, solidly upper middle class, you get $2,090. Weird. Now it drops off a fucking cliff. If you make $45,000 to $100,000, so depending on where you are, that's middle class, you only get a tax cut of $1,060. And if you make less than $45,000, which, by the way, is about 50% of the country, that's about 50% of the country, you only get $240 in a tax cut. The bottom half of workers are only going to get about $240 in tax cuts. So do you see what they're doing here? They're doing gargantuan tax cuts for the rich, and they're pitching it as, we're doing a populist tax reform and we're unrigging the economy. So this occurred to me last night as I was reading through the articles on this. Trump is actually worse than other establishment Republicans. Now, you might say, whoa, wait a second. I thought that in some ways he bucked orthodoxy and whatnot. That's true, but as time has gone by, we've learned that he just lied. So, like, for example, when he says, oh, I'm going to kill TPP. Well, we learned that he's slipping provisions of the TPP back into renegotiations of NAFTA. So we're still going to get the shittiest parts of TPP, but we're going to get him in a different way where he kind of kneecapped the outrage over it because he said, no, you're right, I agree, tremendous, let's kill the TPP. So kill the TPP, and then you bring it right back in the form of the renegotiation of NAFTA, and the anger over it is reduced because he did a little sleight of hand trick. So a lot of people don't even realize that he's putting the provisions of the TPP still into law. So every time he bucked orthodoxy, come to find out, he's still serving the establishment. He's just doing it in a more savvy way. Now, with the tax proposals, with somebody like Mitt Romney or somebody like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, these guys are not they're not savvy enough and bright enough to frame their gargantuan tax cuts for the rich as we're being populist, we're unrigging the economy. They're so out of touch and they don't know how to market. So what they would do is they would use the same old tired, cliches and platitudes that the right-wingers use of, we have to unleash the beast of the free market. We have to let the invisible hand of the market work. And we need to do these tax cuts. But they wouldn't know how to frame it with that populist tinge to it. Trump is going out there and saying, that, yeah, we're doing this is populist tax reform. Populist? You're giving a tremendous amount of money to the rich. The overwhelming majority of the tax cuts are going to people who make over $1 million a year. The fuck are you talking about? Oh, we're unrigging the economy. What are you unrigging the economy? To me, this looks like you're rigging it more. We already have record levels of income inequality, and you're saying, let's make it worse. So Trump is actually worse than other establishment Republicans because he's going to do the exact same policies that they would do, except as he does it, he just outright lies in his marketing of it and acts like he's being populist. And that kneecaps a lot of the outrage over it. Because if people don't go into the details of his proposal, they go, what do you mean? They said he's doing a populist tax reform, so he's unrigging the economy, right? Right? No, does that look like he's unrigging the economy to you when you go into the details, when you go into the specifics? No, of course not. So he's marketing it using, in many respects, left-wing language. Populist, unrigging the economy, and then he further rigs it. And by the way, there's been an analysis of, he's released a couple different tax plans, and there's been multiple analyses of them. And they're basically the Bush tax cuts on steroids. So first of all, he goes right back to the top marginal rate, goes right back to the Bush rates. But then on top of that, he does a gigantic corporate tax cut. And what happens is these guys lie when it comes to the corporate tax rate. They say, oh, the U.S. is the highest corporate tax rate in the world, and oh my God, isn't that crazy? And that's so misleading because what they do is they talk about the nominal rate. I think the nominal rate's about 35% in the U.S., and they go, we're uncompetitive on a global scale because look, we have a 35% corporate tax rate. What they're not telling you is that's not the effective tax rate. Nominal is just what it is on paper. Nobody actually pays that. The effective corporate tax rate is about 12% in the U.S., which actually makes it one of the lowest of the modern nations. So it's a solution in search of a problem. It's not that they're actually like, oh my God, we're uncompetitive and we have to lessen the burden for these giant multinational corporations. It's that the multinational corporations bought the government, so the government is pushing policies that the multinational corporations want. As of right now, corporations pay a historic low percentage of the tax burden. And when they do that, they shift the burden on to you and me. They shift the burden onto the middle class and the lower class. So as they say, oh, populist, oh, unrigging the economy, they're rigging it further and they're hosing the little guy more. So this is as bad as it gets, man. Using the language of populism, using the language of the left in many respects to push a standard, classic, right-wing, shitty agenda, and we know what's going to happen. They're cutting taxes for the rich, they're deregulating, they're cutting corporate taxes. What, you think this time, of all the times in history, you think this time, oh yeah, we'll do that and there won't be a crash? Of course there's going to be a crash. There's already going to be a crash. We have a student loan debt crisis. People can't file for bankruptcy on their student loan debt. They got student loan debt dripping out of their eyeballs. We reinflated the housing bubble again. We have a derivatives market which is totally unregulated, and at any second that thing can fucking tank. We have regular debt. Credit card debt is a giant issue. So we have all these, it's a Jenga tower, and at some point somebody's going to pull out the wrong piece and everything comes tumbling down, and this is only speeding up that process. So you're going to give more money to the rich. Guys, we already live in a world where I think now it's the richest 6 people have more than the bottom 3.5 billion. 6 people more than half the world. You think that's sustainable? That's, you're asking for there to be a giant crisis. And there is going to be one. And they're speeding it up. And as of right now, it's so sad to watch these idiots. Like they go, look, the stock market is doing well. And the stock market is not a good indicator of how the American people are doing. It's a good indicator of how corporations are doing. And yeah, they're doing great. But again, this is just monopoly money. This is just the boom cycle before the bust cycle. So it is not pretty. It's basically as ugly as it gets. Tick-tock until that economy crashes, man. I'm telling you. I'm warning you. I hope people are saving all these videos where I'm telling you about the coming crash, because it's fucking happening. There's no doubt about that. And Donald Trump is only speeding up the process, and he's using the language of the left to push a far right-wing, pro-establishment, pro-rich tax reform.